everyone. I hope you have had a great number of 3 days. It has been amazing here, and especially what was very unique was the different perspectives that I heard on analytics and data science. And one of the things that I've always wondered, right, and we talk this very importantly, context is of the essence whenever how much ever progress we make. So today we are going to talk about facial recognition technologies. I want to talk about whether they should be banned for surveillance or whether they should be not deployed at all anywhere, right? But before we do that, I just wanted to get the audience involved, right? I wanted to ask about a recent advancement. So recently, the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, he said that he has added 140,000 more cameras to the city, and that makes it a total of 4,15,000 cameras, which is the highest per square kilometer compared to any city in the world, right? So if you can just with the raise of hands tell me, did this make you feel safe? Did it? If yes, can you raise your hand? Okay. My follow-up question to that is that did this also make you feel worried about the privacy of your information? Show of hands if anybody. Fair enough. I think that's going to be the theme of our discussion. But I think we have divided opinions again here as well. So let's start with the panel, right? So studies, the FRTs is a technology and we talk always about accuracy, but it has shows disparities in error rates when kind of identifying different genders or ethnicities. So my question to Shirsha is, can technology really solve this to an extent where you have good accuracy and there is no disparity in error rates?
I think, Kashyap, I want to draw a parallel at this point with something like drugs, right? We've all been through this whole COVID mayhem, and we've heard a similar question when it was with vaccines as well, right? A vaccine that is rapidly developed and tested on a very minimal set of people, is it going to be effective across the world? So similar to that, I want to sort of draw a parallel and say facial recognition technology, the AI in it is also similar in that it needs definitely a certain amount of retraining to to a different genealogy pool, to a different set of users depending on their ethnicities and their backgrounds, and it can't be as a standard applied across, right? So I would definitely think that it needs work before it can be applied around.
Okay. Nidhi, your opinion on this?
Just adding on to what Shrisha said. So technology evolves with time, right? So I don't know if when I was researching on this, I was definitely taken by surprise that face recognition technology is older than anybody in this room. It started in 1960s, and that's definitely a long, long time back. But it has evolved. It has evolved. So maybe for a long time. So when it first started, it was basically a human actually coding or highlighting the key points on the face, feeding into the computer, and the computer doing some very basic matching. It has evolved to say 1990s when eigenvalues started getting used, principal component analysis started getting used, to now where we now have the neural networks being fed into face detection, right? So it's, as Shrisha said, right, things evolve. Obviously, you start from some place. There's still biases. And biases could also be because of the training data sets, right? So I think the initial set of the face recognition that has happened. So the biases that we'll talk about are like the current ones. They're biased against women. They're biased against dark skin. So I was just thinking if I were to be kind of matched against, there would be an error percentage of 35%. So it's that bad right now in terms of biasing. But having said that, like any other AI and ML technology, with more testing and more different techniques being used, the precision rates can definitely go up. Whether we are going to touch 100%, that's definitely a debatable one.
And that's where my next question is, right? We talk about FRTs and the biases still existing. Not just from a technology point of, but an entire socio-technical perspective, it has been massively understudied. it has led to people go into jail, right? And when we talk about, let's say, AI-driven autonomous cars, we expect 100% delivery. Is someone's freedom also does not that deserve that? Tarun, what are your opinions on this? Should FRTs only be deployed with 100% accuracies?
Yeah, when you talked about autonomous car, right? You still have not solved the ethical problem.
Yeah.
Whom you will save if there is a child
Yeah.
on the road versus a passenger in the car.
Correct.
I don't think we have solved this. So, even in the autonomous car where you expect 100% accuracy, there are ethical issues. And that is where we come to the responsible AI here. There is a lot of discussion in the community and even in the academia about how responsible an AI can be. And I believe that it is a huge responsibility on the technologist to make sure that you have right guardrails in place. You yourself are aware of the responsibilities which you have in place. But not only that, it puts all the more responsibility to the users of it, to how you use this in ethical ways so that it doesn't harm anybody. I think there are definitely questions about somebody put in jail because of a wrong recognition. But if you looked at the history, the error rate has been reducing year over year. Right? There is definitely bias to the point made earlier. And that is where the question is, can we ensure that we eliminate all the biases? For example, yesterday there was a session from one of my colleagues about how you can ensure eliminating bias in the data gathering. If you don't eliminate the bias, the point she made, right? I think you have gender bias, you have skin color bias, etc. If you can consciously address that during the model building stage itself, by gathering the right unbiased data, I think most of this can be solved. To be fair, there is a lot of bad press about this than it actually deserves. As a technologist, I strongly believe that we can together solve this when technologists as well as the user feel the responsibility.
Okay. You said there's a lot of bad press around it. I'm sure there was a bad press around the lack of trials when it came to the drug discovery of the vaccines for this thing, which you just mentioned. But at that point, the situation, or like I started out, right, the context is important. Right now, we had to kind of, avoid the pandemic from spreading further. So probably they were accelerated. But is there really a need for that, to take that kind of a risk? Can't these be solved by other, FRTs, whatever they are able to solve or whatever applications they are being applied to? Do we really need that? That if we're not that sure and might end up putting wrong people in jail?
If I may answer that, Kashyap. So, you mentioned, this is a socio-technical issue, right? Yeah. It's not about, whether my AI is accurate enough. It's more about, do we want to do this, right? So if I were to backtrack, where Internet 2.0 was, and, it kind of dawned on us, I remember, I think maybe we just, lapped it all up. It was so easy, it was so welcoming, and we just accepted it without really throwing all caution, as to the privacy and all of it, right? So we were uploading baby pictures. I remember I uploaded my baby pictures on Facebook. Little did I know that this is the same platform which is, hand in gloves with all election fraud and whatnot, right? But then this is our, next round into this. We know what technology evolution can bring for us, the ease of life and the, we're talking about the, whether it makes us feel safe or not. It does make us feel safe, right? Presence of cameras does make us feel safe, but let's take that feeling of safety, complete that arc. Right? What else is needed for us to feel safe that yes, there are cameras, there are video, there are video recordings. Let's ensure that what it's going to be used for is something which is transparent and is something which is the laws, within the law's boundaries.
So we need a framework, right?
Sorry?
So we need a framework,
Yep.
we need a policy framework.
Yes, we need
to that, right? We don't have that currently in India, right? So, and one of the most critical applications.
Maybe, I think just taking the other side, right? So, like any innovation technology, there would be two sides to it, right? And even mobile phone, right? We have a lot of positives, but there are sides which are not healthy as well or not positive as well. this is at a stage where we really need to look at the flip side as minutely as the positive.
Yeah.
And to me, things like privacy, to me, things like ethics definitely stands out. I don't think we can overlook that. This is different than phone, right? When I'm carrying my phone, I know what I am giving an access to. When I'm uploading on Facebook, I know what am I uploading, right? I can choose not to. But I'm walking on the street, I don't have a choice. Nobody has taken my consent. I am getting clicked everywhere. Where is that data getting stored? Is it getting stored by a government? Is it getting stored by a private company? How long are they going to store it? And are they going to use it to spy on me or my family? Absolutely clueless. That's the dangerous side, and I don't think we can overlook that. So when we're talking about framework has to be really very strong one with legal teeth behind it. I don't think we are there.
Yes.
But the technology obviously moves very fast, and it's in the hand of everyone, right? So I can today go and buy a surveillance camera and put it on somebody I want to spy on. Nobody going to stop me. So this is definitely the negative side that we need to be wary about.
Yeah, and then when you deploy it in areas such as crime,
Yes.
that makes it very risky, right? So
Yes.
if you don't have those laws and policy frameworks, and watchdogs like Internet Freedom Foundation have repeatedly shown evidence that this is being used for surveillance rather than that, is it really worth it then, Tarun?
Yeah, look, I think, in areas where it relates to the safety, security, and the lives of the human being, you should use face recognition technologies, in my opinion, as a additional measure of, check and balances. For example, so if you go to a passport control, and there can be mistake made by the person who is verifying you with your passport.
Yeah.
Even human can make the mistake. So why are we so much hyper about an AI engine? But if that fails, obviously you have the security officer who can ask a bunch of questions to you and so on, and still establish that you are the same person, right? And this is the same case with, somebody detected being committed a crime, face detection technology recognizes him. There are multiple ways to establish that this is the same person, right? And then the question is, what are the guardrails, right? In this aspect, there are some places where people did not have a reasonable expectation of the privacy.
Yeah.
For example, airport, in your railway station,
Yeah.
right? There, you can use face recognition technologies to absolutely ensure safety, right? That's a key aspect. And the other thing, I think we talked about surveillance cameras, right? All the surveillance cameras are not using face recognition technologies. They are just recording you.
Yeah.
Now, if there is a suspect, let's say a terrorist is reported to be in this vicinity, then you are doing the face recognition of only that terrorist against the recording. So they are not surveilling you completely.
Not yet.
Yes, as a community,
Yeah.
but not as an individual.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? So giving power to someone. So for example, you're setting up these many cameras. They are not, FRTs are not deployed on them. FRTs are deployed later on the footage. That's the idea. But when there is, now whether this government is authoritarian or not is an entirely different debate, and probably we can talk for 2 hours and get everyone involved. But, but when you talk about this freedom, right, and when it is used for mass surveillance, that kind of footage availability, when we don't have laws and frameworks, yes, probably it can prevent crime, but when we don't have that framework and the power being misused in the country is not something new to us. And when you give that level of power to a government, then probably is it really worth it? Like, it can cost many people freedom. People have been put in jail today just for protesting against something, and the peaceful protest. So then that kind of power in someone, is that really worth it then?
Maybe I can take it. See, you can't blame FRT for your ideological differences.
Yeah.
The technology is what technology is.
But it's an enabler, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you the same thing, right? So we have all seen the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? The use of nuclear power. But then world has found a ways to use it for peaceful purpose. Now it's generating power, which is absolutely needed right now. So yes, it takes time, but there are definitely regulatory measures. For example, Europe is very ahead.
Yeah.
They have very strong GDPR norms which protects the individual freedom. But that is individual freedom. The same information can be used to identify the behavior of the group. That is better. So in my opinion, we should have a neutral third party in this country which regulates, formulates and regulates such a norm to make sure that you have rational decisions.
And you know, if I may add on to what Tarun said, right? So it should be across corporates or governments, right? Okay. You know, you're particularly bringing in the government picture, but I think private companies, corporates, have just as much of a responsibility to the society into which they're bringing in products, right? Products and services, just like any other, you know, any other public entity. I think Rohit was talking earlier today in one of the sessions about AI for all. Let's push for, you know, these sort of communities to get stronger so that as technology advances, we are more aware of what it can do and push for public policy than to say, let's ban FRTs. Right? Let's push for public policies as to, you know, what we can do and can't do, like, you know, what Nidhi was mentioning. Let's put in place those legal boundaries within which it should act.
Okay, and so we have to put legal boundaries, right? And Nidhi, you did mention that without them, it can become very dangerous, especially it can be misused. It's just not about the policies as well. To follow up to that, there's a lot of people who forget, like, even that we are unaware that we are being captured, but people are unaware that FRTs exist. There is an AI-powered technological capability to identify your identify a person. And with that level of digital literacy, and the PDP bill was also scrapped. We thought that it is not enough for us.
Yep.
With these is then data collection of such sensitive data, personal, face collection data, should it be there then? Like, should we first have a PDP and then only deploy FRTs? Because we are already deploying this. So where do we draw the line? How do we avoid that?
Yeah. And maybe if I just step back, I'll come back to this one. But I think we're focusing on India quite a bit. You mentioned about GDPR, Europe. Obviously, there is some data, there is a strong data, and maybe that's the most evolved data protection policy that we have. But in spite of all of that, we do see. So I'll take example of Clearview, which is the startup which has, I think all of you would have heard. So just for a context, Clearview as a startup, New York based, has, I won't say in the right legal way, but has scraped a lot of visuals, pictures from Facebook, from employment websites, from news websites, and created a database which has billions of photographs, right? Based on that, they now have the power to get really high into facial recognition. With that, they are now engaging with governments all across the world and private companies, governments like Taliban, governments like Ukraine, who are in the middle of the war. So the facial recognition technology is going beyond a BAU into a very a zone which can be, I would say, quite risky to individuals and their lives. So I don't know what could that governing be. So there are definitely, every technology has positives, but what is that? Who decides what is right, what is wrong, right? An Ukrainian government might, in their context, might think maybe putting it and identifying Russian spy is right, and then maybe killing that Russian spy is right, or maybe Afghan Taliban leader might think identifying somebody who's spying against the government should be. So I think this is definitely, I don't know if one bill can do it, but yes, we need to be having a guarded approach, and we need to have a scaled one. Right? So there's some use cases which are really useful, humanitarian use cases. There's some very interesting use cases we had heard about. For example, finding out parents of an orphan child.
Missing children.
Missing children in India itself, right? Identifying who are the beneficiaries in crisis and in some disaster relief.
Disoriented patients, right?
Patients. Yeah. I think those are definitely use cases where we should be using it. So if there's a way of managing what use cases or what areas we are able to use FRT, I think that definitely will help us at least reduce the downsides that we have. False negative, false positive can be dangerous in this case, but how do we kind of limit it to relevant use cases?
Yep.
I think one of the we were talking only about the government use. Let's move on to the private companies using it. You mentioned Clearview, right?
Yeah.
And now we have products in this thing where they have facial recognition for not facial recognition, but FRTs for emotion detection, right? And based on this emotion detection, they judge the attitude of this thing. And this is all based on, I did a little bit of research on this, and this is all based on research of a psychologist in the 60s, Paul Ekman. Even Paul Ekman today cites, he's worried that, these technologies are citing my research. And there's a lot of skepticism in the latest research as well. But when private companies get involved and companies like Clearview, they kind of bring it in, how difficult will it be to stop them? Because in one of the cases, it showed that predominantly African American women, they were shown to have a more of a negative approach when it was not the case. It's just, uh, everybody has a different expression, and universal expressions is a phenomenon that has been disregarded. If private companies start using this, how hard would it be to kind of, stop them? Tarun, if you can take it up.
Yeah, so the good example I can cite from is very different industry, say medicine, right? There are some companies who has a formula to obviously create medicine, which doesn't have no side effect on men, but they have side effect on women, or vice versa. And in this case, nobody is asking to ban that,
Yeah.
that company. Instead, what they are doing is they are giving either not to give or give some more supplements so that the side effect is impacted. I think that is the same thing which has to apply here. Obviously, this is early stages of AI technology using FRT for surveillance, etc. But we need to change the mindset that, okay, when human can make mistake, the medical companies can make mistake, but an AI making a mistake, it's a big issue. I think we have to evolve.
Sorry to cut you, but it's not that simple, right? When you talk about medicines and you're saying there's no side effect on a certain section of the society, you can just avoid giving them society. FRTs don't function that way. FRTs are everywhere. They will be deployed. And when crime is there, everybody will be judged. It's not like this FRT is not good on detecting certain genders and it is this thing. But if the person was in the vicinity of the crime, they might, it's not like you're going to disregard using that technology for a certain section of the society.
Good
If I
that you
may.
mentioned that. That is where your emotional detection comes into picture.
Okay?
So you may be a part of the group, but your emotion will tell you whether you are aggressive or not. And that's where FRT has a big usage in the surveillance and ensuring the safety of the larger population. That's what I would summarize that.
If I may also, add on to what Tarun is saying, right? Let's leave FRT, let's leave AI aside. Any commercial software, let's say the e-com companies, right? So they do a lot of user profiling, and they don't, kind of expect to have all people of this age group, of this gender the same way. They know there are differences. And just like that, any other commercial software, when you're looking to sort of get, user profiling done out of it, you would have these differences sorted out. And just like that, even with the use of FRTs, I'm sure there will be certain amount of profiling that should be done, differences that need to be coming out, right? We're talking about our emotions the same way for all Indians. Emotions are not the same way between me and my teenage son, right? The way he reacts to joy and the way I react to joy is like world of difference, and hence you definitely need retraining and sort of smoothening to say that these are sort of different approaches which I will use. These are the different use cases where I will use the FRT, right?
Okay. So you're saying basically improve the accuracy by better data sets.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, training, yes.
Which I will come back to
Yeah.
you in a minute, right? But before we go to the accuracy part of it, all of you work in different industries. Tarun, you're in manufacturing, you're in banking, you are into media. All of you are deploying analytics. Do you really see any applications within the industry where FRTs is a must-have and cannot be solved by something more? This thing, and this question is to all three of you. Anybody can start. It's a must. Like you cannot solve it without FRTs. Any applications?
No, see, there are always alternatives. The question is, what is the best solution in a context?
Okay.
Which either drives productivity or drives accuracy or any other benefit, right? In that context, there are many applications. So for example, I'll give you a good example, right? I think if emotional detection, if your phone can detect your emotion when you are driving, that you are about to fall asleep, drowsy, and it can alert you, that saves life.
Yep.
It's an example where it can absolutely be a life-saving in this case.
Okay. Nidhi?
So I'll talk about banking. The kind of use, I think FRT has not really been adopted to a great extent if I see in banking. The couple of use cases For example, in Singapore, a bank uses FRT for ATM withdrawal. So you don't have to put your PIN. You go and face recognizes and you can do ATM withdrawal. Or for that matter, some payments in China where you can just pass the kiosk and your payment gets distracted. We all are aware of using mobile phone and using, in some cases, face recognition for opening our application. So more of it is more, I think, a convenience, making it easier and faster. In some cases, we're also trying to see whether it can be used for, when I say we, it's not the CBA, but as banks are trying to see whether we can use FRT for fraudulent, like KYC. Can we make the KYC process more foolproof by having said that, is it mandatory? Are we surviving without that as well? Yes. Can that make the process better and more convenient and more accurate? Yes. So it definitely enhances, makes it more nuanced, and can add value. But again, I would want to come back to it. How is the data getting captured? How are we disclosing that it's getting captured? Are we taking users' consent? Is privacy being taken care of? How we are storing the data? Is InfoSec being taken care of? I think those are equally important questions to answer rather than just assuming we can use the data for whatever use cases we want to.
Yeah.
If I may, add on to what this said, I don't want to represent the industry as such, but I can speak to the sort of products Thomson Reuters has for legal research and for, tax and accounting professionals. And even as, you gave this topic, Kashyap, that, let's discuss about facial recognition technology. I went through our product Westlaw to sort of see, what is the history of legal cases today in the US on facial recognition technology. The very first page had burning cases which are being fought live in the US, and it's a very happening topic, seems like. So I can definitely say that as long as there are topics like the face recognition technology, we need to be aware of it, because our systems, our algorithms, our models need to continue to be aware of these keywords and how the legal boundaries are being pursued for this, right? So from that point of view, I would say, we are aware. And it's not like, the industry needs to be not using face recognition technology and doing it differently. We need to be aware of face recognition technology and what legal cases are going to come with it.
Okay,
right?
okay. So I think in a gist, right, we talked about the need for policies and frameworks. We said that maybe there are some applications, but again, we have to find out the best one. And before this, we just talked about accuracy. Maybe it's just the improving of accuracy. But at the same time, and we have had this discussion quite a while now, research shows that accuracy and explainability of it is always, there's always been a trade-off. If you have a really complex algorithm, you're not able to explain it really well. If your explainability is high, then probably your accuracy is not that, because it's a fairly simpler model. Let us say there is a need to deploy FRTs, okay? That is the best solution, and it is. What is the level of transparency and accuracy, transparency and explainability is needed to ensure that, we have we do not have a negative outcome of using FRTs? And is it technically possible to achieve it at some point? That is my final question to all three of you again. Tarun, if you can start.
Yeah, so I think depending upon the context, having with the assumption that FRT is required, depending upon the context and the negative implications of it, we have to put the guardrails, which the point which we talked about. But if we give so much stress on the explainability, it's an AI world. You can't explain every node and what decision it takes. Let's be real, right? So the question is, can we put the right guardrails to get the right human in the loop equation to the areas which are harmful to the people, and for the rest of the applications, let AI do the job. And when you have an additional guardrail like this, people get more confident, and then obviously explainability ask will be minimum, and the benefits will offset such concerns.
Okay, Nidhi.
I'll agree with him. It's about the context and use cases we're talking about, right? So I'm just thinking about, we don't need to explain everything every time, right? It's like weather prediction, it's going to rain or not rain. rather than trying to reduce the accuracy by trying to explain why we predicted what, it's important to be able to predict. And I think similarly here in this case, there is a match with this person with this database, overlay with the governance depending on the severity of the use case. Many a times, even accuracy won't be as important. For example, some of the use cases where I'm just trying to, in a branch, I'm trying to understand what is the queue time, how many people are there, and how much time do they wait. So I don't need a lot of accuracy. I need to count the number of people. I need to use FRT at a little less accuracy level, and maybe I don't even need to explain. So, but if it's about somebody being able to withdraw money, right? There any error could be a big error. Somebody or trying to label somebody as a criminal or as an offender. There the negativity the false negative or positive could be quite big. So accuracy for me definitely would be quite key. Layering it with human elements and human checks and balances.
So you're saying that there can't be a trade-off with explainability, but accuracy must be higher.
Yes, yes.
Especially in critical areas
Yes.
like crime or banking.
Yes.
Shirsha?
I think my position is, I mean, I'm pretty clear in my head on this, Kashyap. I think accuracy and explainability is going to improve. Technology is going to ensure that we're going to get better and better at it. However, I think what's important is that we push for governance, right? Let's wait for the right governance before we could start to play with these technologies and what it could do for us as a society. And if I were to be, let's say, we're talking about policy, governments, and things like that. If I were to be, sort of advising, the policy-making arm, I wouldn't so much go into the depths of, let's ensure that the accuracy be this way, and only then allow this technology to be deployed. My stand would still be on impacts, right? What are you looking to use this for? Right, and that's always in the outcome of it, right? Whatever be the outcome of what you're using the technology for, it must adhere to the societal expectations and the legal boundaries that we are setting it up for. And so I would say, as much as accuracy and explainability is important, what's even more important is the speed and agility to get this governance going for us.
Yeah, and I think that, so I want to ask a final question, right? And I really want a one-worded answer only, right? And for me, it's I'm pretty clear in my head as well. Should FRTs be banned? Yes. The reasons are many because I have made that opinion on this thing. I think that there are other applications which can be used instead of FRTs. We have lived without FRTs until very recently. But so have we without many other technologies as well. So that is my reason. But if I have to ask each one of you, should FRTs be banned with just one word answer? Would it be yes or a no? Completely. Tarun?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay. Nidhi?
As a technology, no, not banned.
No, not banned. Shirsha?
No.
Fair enough. Okay. I think we can take some questions from the audience now.